In today's video, I'm going to be looking at the unfortunate news that it looks like Final Fantasy VII Remake won't be out for a very long time, given that it's a big budget Square Enix JRPG, and it's of a franchise like Final Fantasy. I don't think many of us were expecting to play it in 2019, however, I held out a modicum of hope, maybe thinking that considering this game is going to be episodic, we'll get episode 1 in late 2019 or early 2020, but in this case, it's more so looking like this is going to be a late 2020 title or an early 2021 game based on the latest Square Enix financials. We'll take a look at that, and also, speaking of delays, another heavy hitter has been delayed. Skull and Bones, Ubisoft's new IP, has been delayed, and it won't be making its presence felt at E3 of this year. That's a bummer as well. This is a game that I'm really looking forward to. A naval-based game harkening back to Assassin's Creed 4. It looked great back when we initially saw it, but it looks like they still have to do a lot of work on it. I also want to take a look at the newly announced Rocket Arena, a brand new 3v3 first-person shooter coming from Nexon and Final Strike Games. First up, let's talk about the unfortunate news about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, if you actually analyze the Square Enix financials that just came out, WCCF Tech did a pretty great breakdown of it, and we'll leave a link in the description box down below. But initially, they had high expectations for fiscal year 2020. That's ending on March 2020. Fiscal years generally run from the end of March to the end of March the following year, but in this case, their fiscal year 2020 has been shifted to actually show lesser projections, and those projections for fiscal year 2020 have rather been shifted into fiscal year 2021. Meaning that the heavy hitters from Square Enix being the Final Fantasy VII remakes, and it should also be mentioned that they have an Avengers project in the works, chances are both of those games have been delayed into fiscal year 2021. That's the only thing that makes sense, because they initially had the fiscal year of 2020 pegged to be a big year for Square Enix. Now, that's not necessarily the case. Now, they do have a couple of other projects in the works. It should be noted that Babylon's Fall by Platinum Games is in development, and there's set to be a new shooter in development by People Can Fly, the guys that did a Bulletstorm. So those games could end up being pretty big titles, but they're not going to be at the level of, say, a Final Fantasy VII Remake or an Avengers project. Now, I primarily want to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake because now, while we have an idea that it's coming in fiscal year 2021, that being probably late 2020 to early 2021, I think that's generally the release window a lot of us have come to expect, just based on the fact that whenever Square Enix announces a game, it takes them absolutely forever to actually get that game out. For any other publisher, they would be absolutely ridiculed, but in this case, for Square Enix, it's just been common practice. Kingdom Hearts 3 took 6 years to release. Final Fantasy 15, I don't even want to think about how many years it took that game to be released, and Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced all the way back in 2015, and now here we are in 2019, everybody's losing their minds over a new trailer, but did that trailer even show us a lot? Not really. We're probably going to hear more next month at E3, but it does look like the game isn't going to be ready by the end of the year. I think a lot of us were already expecting the game's probably not going to be out by the end of the year, given that Square Enix released Kingdom Hearts 3 at the beginning of the year, and for Square Enix to release 2 big budget JRPGs in the same calendar year, yeah, that probably was not going to happen, but still, it's a big disappointment to me. And right now, with the game seemingly being shifted to fiscal year 2021, it just gets me a little scared, like, how much can they really push back this game? I know Final Fantasy VII is an incredibly ambitious game, and they're gonna want to do the game justice. It's one of the most iconic games of all time, and there's a reason why ahead of the official announcement of the FF7 remake, there was so much clamor for it, because people love the game, and for Square Enix to mess up the remake of Final Fantasy VII, yeah, that would be an absolute disaster, because this is something that's been handed to them. Like, they always had this idea in the back door. We can pull out the Final Fantasy VII remake whenever we want, and it is going to be a massive game, but it's not going to be a massive game, and it could do a lot of damage to Square Enix as a brand if they don't do that remake justice. So I can understand why they're really taking their time with it. At the same time, the game was announced all the way back in 2015, and at some point, you gotta take a crap or get off the pot, and it's time to actually release these games. I'm tired of being strung along by Square Enix getting a trailer every year or two and then just being told the game will come when it's ready. Well, don't announce the game so early. I think a lot of other publishers are starting to do it right, where they announce a game and then the game is ready to be released 6 months later. At the very least, don't be announcing games 4 or 5 years early ahead of time. I know that's been Square Enix MO recently, but I just generally feel that a lot of that anticipation dissipates over time, and yes, in the case of FF7, it just seems like if they release a trailer, all that hype is gonna come back around, but that's in the case of Final Fantasy VII. I don't want to see this become common pattern for Square Enix where they announce these games 4 or 5 years ahead of time, sometimes even longer than that, then they see constant delays. They just gotta do something where they put these games out at a consistent basis. I'm not saying we have to see new Final Fantasy games every year, but what I am saying is I want to see compelling Square Enix properties come out at a consistent pace, and I don't think that's too much to ask for, but in the case of the FF7 remake, it looks like we won't be getting it for quite a while. Again, link to WCCF Tech's breakdown will be in the description box down below. They're gonna have a breakdown of the entire Square Enix financials, so I would recommend you guys to give that a look if you are into that side of the gaming business. Moving on from that, speaking of game delays, Skull and Bones has also been delayed, and it is skipping E3 2019. Now, Skull and Bones is one of the brand new IPs that Ubisoft is bringing out. Ubisoft gets a lot of flack for relying on the same IPs over and over again, but hey, they're doing a new one in Skull and Bones, and that has me pretty excited for the concept of the game that it is. Set in the golden age of piracy, a naval-based game, I think it has a lot of potential. And producer of the game, Carl von der Loo, sent out a video message saying this: "You may have heard that Skull and Bones release date has been pushed back and we will not be at E3 2019. Rest assured, we are working as hard as ever to make sure that the game is going to be as great as possible, and quality remains our #1 focus. Ubisoft remains fully devoted to this exciting journey to bring you this brand new game, and we're confident Skull and Bones is going to be amazing. Our community remains super important to us, and we're really grateful for the support and passion you've given us, and we will be back as soon as we can with exciting new updates." Skull and Bones is still listed as a PlayStation 4 title. I imagine that it will be a PlayStation 4 game, but at this point, it probably is going to be released sometime in 2020, and any 2020 releases, which is a point I forgot to mention with the FF7 remake, at what point do these titles also become transitioned to PS5 titles? Maybe they'll be released on the PlayStation 4, but could you do a cross-generation version with souped-up visuals on the PlayStation 5? I think that's entirely possible as well. But back to the point of Skull and Bones, this is a game where I'm okay with them delaying, and it's not like this game was announced all the way back in 2015, although I feel like it has been a little bit since Skull and Bones was originally announced. But nonetheless, this is a brand new IP. You want to make a good first impression. You don't want a situation with like The Crew. The Crew was a game that had a lot of anticipation going into its release, didn't turn out all too well, and then we had The Crew 2. That game didn't do too well from a sales standpoint either, and that franchise is probably going to the wayside. However, in the case of Skull and Bones, you want to make that good first impression, and you want to get the series off and running from the get-go. And as far as the game itself, if you don't know, it is the golden age of piracy. Renegade captains command the most powerful weapons on Earth, warships. You play as a pirate captain who has refused the king's pardon and sailed from the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean, an untamed frontier full of lavish riches. However, these waters are also battlegrounds where far-reaching colonial empires, powerful trading corporations, and ruthless pirate gangs clash. In order to survive, you will have to build a lethal fleet, prey upon lucrative trade routes, and ally with other pirates. The game has a shared open world that reacts to you as you plunder rich trade routes. You can customize your own pirate experience where you can choose your captain, recruit your crew, and build deadly ships. Touts naval combat refined. You can play solo or co-op. And there is, of course, explosive multiplayer in the game as well. So a lot of potential here. Still looking forward to it. Unfortunately, won't be at E3 and won't be released anytime in the near future. Lastly, I do want to give you guys a heads up on the newly announced Rocket Arena, a brand new first-person shooter, a 3v3 FPS from Nexon and Final Strike Games. This was just announced by publisher Nexon America, and Rocket Arena is a unique take on first-person shooters where the very method you use taking out opponents has an explosive change. Battle is won not by putting enemies into the dirt, but to send them blasting off into the sky. Every character has their own loadout of bombs, traps, spells, and yes, rockets that send enemies caught within them flying. The more damage they take, the further they'll be hurled out by each and every strike until they're knocked out of the arena. With a variety of unique characters with different rockets and abilities to master, rapid-fire matches that keep the energy high, and a selection of maps and game modes to shake things up, there's plenty for you to enjoy during the closed beta and when Rocket Arena officially launches. The closed beta will have 3 periods of play to make sure they can quickly respond to any problems that might arise during the first rounds of widespread play. You can sign up for the chance to be selected for Rocket Arena's closed beta. We'll leave a link with a lot more information, and there is a bunch of phases again where you can play through it, but it is windows of time where you will be eligible to play, and you have to sign up for the closed beta, and it is going to be limited sign up. They have a lot of information on the specific characters, and you guys are seeing some gameplay. So pretty interesting title. We'll see how Rocket Arena turns out. It is a 3v3 FPS. Reminds me a little bit of obviously Rocket League with that 3v3 vibe and that team-based vibe, but nonetheless looks to be a pretty interesting title, and we'll keep you guys posted as we hear more. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, it looks like the Final Fantasy VII Remake has been delayed. Originally, I think Square Enix was planning for the game to be out in 2019 or early 2020, at least episode 1 of it, but now it's more so looking like a late 2020, early 2021 title, and that brings up a lot of questions that hopefully we'll get some clarity to come E3 and Square Enix's presence there. The game that won't be out very soon is Skull and Bones. That's been delayed and it won't be at E3, but hopefully we hear more about that soon. And Nexon and Final Strike Games have announced Rocket Arena. It's coming to the PlayStation 4, and by the way, the closed beta is set for May 23rd until the 29th. Hopefully a full release follows soon thereafter. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.